name is Sara Porkalob and I am the director of Peerless. High school, murder, high stakes, twins, ambition. I had a feeling that Peerless was going to get picked up by some theater for the 2017-18 season. It was just too nationally popular to not be considered by a theater here in Seattle. And I knew that I wanted to act in it or I wanted to direct it. Literally, ARTSWEST announced their season via social media and I saw it. And I emailed Matt and saying, hey, just saw your season, so freaking exciting. Peerless, you should let me direct it. And it was all caps with exclamation points. And he emailed me within 10 minutes saying, fantastic, we were thinking of you for the project, let's talk more. And then I closed my laptop and I just screamed. I was like, ah! So there's some attractive things about this play from a producer and from an institutional perspective. It's got a small cast. It's 5 people. It's also attractive because it can be done 90 minutes with no intermission. I also think it's attractive because it deliberately demands to be cast with racially specific characters. And right now, especially here in Seattle and all over the nation, that the discussions around representation, EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusion are like rampant everywhere. So this is an opportunity for a theater organization to force themselves to cast people of color and to outreach to people of color, and that's attractive from an institutional aspect. I think it's also popular because it's funny and irreverent and playful, and it's really politically incorrect and astutely correct at the same time. And that tension is really confusing and seductive and titillating to people. Our actresses playing L and M look nothing alike. And yet, they both, as Asian women, have walked in the world and been mistaken for the other Asian woman in the classroom, in the other show, which is fascinating. And I think that the choice to do that is also incisive commentary on how we look at Asian people, how we're considered the model minority. I am of the mind, right now, where I am right now in my theatrical practice, I believe that theater, what makes theater theater versus performance art versus dance versus music, is people in a space over a period of time saying words to each other. So when we do that already, when we put people in context to each other and the tool of communication are actual words, identity is already part of the formula. Right now, we are demanding and looking explicitly at plays that explicitly deal with qualifiers of identity, such as race, gender, class, sexuality. And why we're doing that is because not too long ago, we were seeing plays that supposedly dealt with all of humanity, and yet what we were seeing were only white people. So when it comes to a season of identity, I think it's safe to say that any season done previously by a theater that had people on stage talking to each other had to do with identity. But now, what we're doing is we're thinking about identity with a different set of qualifiers in ways that are very explicit. Like, what does Peerless have to offer in terms of identity? Is it explicitly holds up these qualifiers and shows at the same time how conditional they are and how they can be wielded as weapons, depending whose hands they're in. And that's pretty exciting. I think Jiehae Park chose to do a Shakespeare adaptation because we hold Shakespeare up as the highest example of the theatrical form. And when I say we, I mean like a broad we, like broadly in academia, in any undergrad arts theater program, Shakespeare is elevated and held at a different standard than American realism or farce, for example. Jiehae Park knows that. She's smart. Acting major, playwriting major. So she chose Shakespeare, a thing that we all recognize, and she decided to use it for her own means, which is pretty exciting. And what makes it different is that instead of a king and a queen who are hungry for power, we have instead 2 incredibly intelligent, ambitious, and driven Asian American female teenagers who want to secure their spot for the future. And their spot is the coveted spot at the college. Things to watch for in Peerless. If you are a Shakespeare fan or a Macbeth fan, there are some wonderful textual references and phrases that are repeated in the show. Quick and really exciting ways. Popular phrases, that's all I'm gonna say. It's kind of like, find this phrase. How many will you find? If you find this many, you get a prize. But I don't think we're giving out prizes, but just potentially that's exciting. I remember searching through the script and being like, what is, oh my gosh, that's from do-do-do-do-do, and getting all nerdy about it. Also, this text is so incredibly stylized. If you look at it on the page, it's literally maybe 50 words per page, and they're not even in full sentences. It's like 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, and it's difficult because it's so contemporary, and also because we have 17-year-olds speaking at the pace at which I think a lot of teenagers speak, which is like at the speed of fun. In that way, it's just as rigorous as listening to Shakespeare. As someone who hasn't seen a lot of Shakespeare in comparison to the other types of theater that I've seen, my ear as a listener is a little slow. But I think that's exciting because as an audience member, I want to lean forward. So I encourage our audiences to lean forward in the show, to listen with a closer ear, because just like Shakespeare, Jiehae Park has written something that demands that type of attention. And if we give it to Shakespeare, why wouldn't we give it to this new playwright who's made this incredibly incisive and hilarious adaptation?